I had to run away. My cat was like standing in the hallways, and he's like, "This shall serve as my vomitorium for today."
Me and Dams was just talking about cat and dog sick.
Yeah.
Does your cat always throw? If there's a place it could throw up where you go, that would be a nice. That would be like a bit of kitchen towel, bit of disinfectant, job done. But there's also carpet next to it. Does it just go? I'm just going to throw up on that small piece of carpet. Thank you very much.
I have a theory about this. I think that their worldview is so so off from ours because they don't understand how things come and go into the apartment, right? So for them, it is their habitat. So things just kind of spawn in there. So they don't want to like throw up on things that are static and forever things like floor. Instead, they want to throw up on things that can come and go and be replaced like a carpets.
That is an interesting proposition.
I think about these things. I think their worldview is just really, really strange.
I mean, they could just be dicks as well.
Yeah.
It is a cat.
They love this.
Where shall I throw? Oh, yeah. This will cause them the most amount of annoyance.
I mean, my personal, like, this year I managed to do it like 7 times, something like that. When one of my cats are throwing up, I just run with them to the bathroom and just hold them over the toilet. And I just managed to I just managed to actually do that. And one of them gets so stressed out that he just stops vomiting then. Now, whenever I pick him up and run with him, he's just like, oh. And then he stands like this for like forever. He's like...
He probably thinks you're ruining his fun.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, that's ruining it. Ruining the experience for me.
They get very stressed when they're held over the toilet when they're throwing up.
Them in.
Yeah, they probably think so. All right. Should we get started with the episode, maybe?
Let's
Yes.
begin.
So, dang, I'm getting a call. I probably should take that.
Welcome to the podcast, baby.
Welcome to Old Grumblers. Today we're going to talk about general mechanics that we would like to see reworks. We're not talking about faction reworks. We're not talking about specifically any one faction. We'll be talking about this one thing could definitely use a giant overhaul, or maybe a slight overhaul, or just a rework or a tweak or whatever like that. We're talking about things like resources maybe and anything in between. And, well, I said that one wrong, but that doesn't matter. We'll just dive in.
Resources is one of yours, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I don't want to spoil everything. It's like, oh, this is what we're going to talk about. I want to leave some surprises, something for the imagination. It is what the boys find sexy, I've heard. Cheeky. So, very.
And judging by my channel demographics, we are definitely appealing to the boys out there.
I'll tell you about it. It's a sausage fest.
It's absolute 99%er. Shall I kick things off?
Yes.
Go.
Right, so my first one is Garrisons. Garrisons in the game are not very good. They're just like, it's one set, and so if an enemy army isn't exactly fitted to be beaten by that set, and you fight the battle, you just lose. Some of them are awful in auto-resolve, some of them are awful in manual battles, some of them are awful in both. Some of them are okay, but not all of them. So instead, you just get a budget and like a unit limit like a normal army. And it's like you can have this many units that fit within this budget, and then you can pick them. They recruit very quickly, not instantly, but very, very quickly. And you pay no upkeep on them, no recruitment costs on them because they're within the garrison budget. And that's it. You can just choose what garrisons you have. You can even, maybe you can even have a thing where it's like, right, I want this to be my set one, and then just automatically does it so you don't have to do it every time. But that is my proposal. Maybe no lords, maybe heroes, possibly, but it's complicated.
It's interesting because was it Medieval 2 Total War? They basically did that. So each settlement had like a little bar showing how full of a army or garrison it had in it, because there were no garrisons in Medieval 2. But what you did have was like a little blue section in the bar which could be filled with militia units. So you had like a little, almost like a what word am I trying, like an account? What am I trying to think? Like a
budget?
budget. Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. A budget to spend on militia units that you could fill a settlement with, which would have no upkeep. So it's kind of like that, basically.
Yeah,
and it's weird that they've gone, oh, you can just have a... But yeah, the problem is that some garrisons are just absolute rubbish compared to other garrisons. You look at Chaos Warriors compared to Vampire Pirates. You've got Chaos Warriors versus Zombies. I mean, there's really no comparison there.
Yeah, it's so weird how they just keep like tier 1 units, even at tier 5. And they just refuse to put in DLC units as well. So like demonic factions will just have like shitty demons that are like tier 1 to 3 and stuff like that, and then a couple of tier 4 and 5, even at highest rank. And it's just like they won't be able to protect against anything because like we have the demonic instability and things like that as well in the game. So whenever you have like a full demon army, you can just remove like 20% of the army. Same with vampires, because they're just not gonna do anything. They're not gonna fight to the end. They're just gonna be removed later on at the end of the battle. So you're always like fighting less than what you think in those as well. And it's just weird. But Khorne has like a decent one now because they got warriors in theirs, because they actually got those in the base game.
Yeah, it is definitely a thing that I remember when the Rome remastered came out. I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a... It's a weird thing because you could like swap it with your own army. I don't think that should be how it works, especially if like you don't have to pay for any of the recruitment. You could just like instantly swap in a giant army. That'd be kind of cracked. These are like simply just units that stay in the settlements. It's like the camps and the Black Arcs, but they don't move and they don't cost because they live there. And you can obviously you'd have to like make it so you can recruit them from anywhere in your faction, because not every settlement, not every province has all your recruitment buildings. It just give a little extra layer of control. I know why they haven't done it, because like Warhammer as a series is meant to be a bit more simplified. Like buildings and everything is way simpler than like say Rome 2, for example, or even Three Kingdoms. But it'd be a nice change if you wanted.
You say that, but then you have like factions like the Chaos Dwarves, where their build is that they probably have the most complex building of any Total War faction ever.
Probably.
Yeah, but that's one faction.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they're not... It's obviously they're not going, oh, it's Warhammer, so therefore we have to dumb down the campaign. It's more like, we'll just not put too much effort into it.
That's actually something that's really interesting as well. Like in... I remember we talked to CA in like some meeting years and years ago, and they're the ones that said this aren't around anymore, and that program is also gone. Well, that iteration of it. And they said that... well, we want like basic factions as well. Like we want really basic ones. Like if people want to play High Elves, they can just go to Tyrion or Teclis and they won't have anything. And Call of France and Gelt will just be like no mechanics, because it's going to be like easy peasy, that faction. But the last DLC actually changed that. So it was like, that's pretty interesting, because now they're like putting mechanics into the base lords as well. Which is like a huge thing for the last DLC that people just don't really know. That's like the base game lords are actually getting mechanics as well, which is crazy cool. Some of them already had it, like Manfred maybe, but that was like, that's hardly a mechanic because that's a shit mechanic. But still, that's not a little tangent and a little trivia.
Yeah, it really does bring up the overarching thing that CA shouldn't be like scared to sicken off players by making things like a little bit more complex. Like if you play strategy games, like Total War, if you ask me, is like one of the easiest strategy games to pick up. Like compared to like Stellaris, Sins of the Solar Empire, or like any of the other Paradox titles. Like here at Hearts of Iron, bruh, I'd rather do A-level physics again than learn how to play Hearts of Iron. It's so complicated. But Total War is like fairly simple to pick up.
That game's a nightmare.
I played the tutorial like 6 times. I've still got no idea what I'm doing. But
I mean,
Garrison.
Sorry, you go on. I'm not going to interrupt anyone here.
I think Total War is quite... I think Total War is one, because a lot of strategy games, you can kind of do stuff and get no instant feedback as to how effective that is. Mm-hmm. It's like in Hearts of Iron, you can design a unit and go, I don't actually know if this is good or not, because there's nothing in the game that will tell me until like 3 hours later when you're going, no, that was bad. That was a really silly decision. Whereas in Total War, you can take a unit, you can try it in combat, and instantly you get that feedback of, oh, I see how that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it is as... on the other hand, I'm saying this as someone with like, God knows, like 5,000 hours in the game, so...
Yeah, I think that's definitely like painting this one like quite heavily, because when you stream the Paradox games, people are like, "Nah, you goddamn dum. Why didn't you use like the plasma torpedoes instead for against that shitty thing that is weak against plasma torpedoes? You're just a dum. You don't even customize your Stellaris fleets." You know, like
You
people
don't even
like
know the meta.
so like people just be good at something, and that's like usually the problem as well with people like us, where we will have like 1,000 upon 1,000 of hours, and it's like, this is a really big problem. Like, can't you see the siege replays are desyncing every time? And people would be like, what? You know,
They are.
like, what's that? What's a siege replay?
Yeah, I get that we're definitely in the position where we're like got thousands of hours in the series, so of course it's easy. But like, you know, I mainly make guides. The Total War guides are like the easiest ones to write compared to anything else. The Stellaris video was an hour and a half, and it's me like going through like, how the fuck does this work? Whereas the Total War one, you play like 20 turns of a faction, and most of the time, I mean, the chaos stuff took a little bit of getting used to, but most of the time, like, oh yeah, I know how most of these mechanics work fairly quickly. But
I still think that they can definitely like go more advanced, like resources, for example. Segue.
Are we segueing?
Yeah.
I was gonna say that are we gonna get back to the fact that Garrison's what we were talking about minutes ago?
So like they really need to like do more with the resources. Like I think Troy and Faeruna did really well with like their like still with the how you have stone, you have gold, you have a lot of stuff. Because there's so many stupid things in like if you're playing Corn, it's like you have the lumber building that gives you 5 skulls, right? You have a diamond mine that gives you 5 skulls. You have a gold mine, skulls.
Where are they getting these skulls from?
they're on trees, monsters. Come on.
Obsidian skulls. Yet again, it just keeps on going like that. Like they really need to do like more clever things with it, I think. At a certain point, it's like you don't even give like different amounts of it. The diamond mine will still give you as much of that as well. It's like if you're, I always used to joke about this with like the Tomb Kings, because you would have like a diamond mine pretty early on there, and like you would just produce 16 carts of goddamn diamonds or 16 boxes and all like that. So what did they do with that if you didn't trade it every single turn, right? Did you stockpile it? Did you just like go and dump it on the beach every time? So to the point where like when a fleet came in, the shimmering of the diamond beach would just like blind them and then sink the ships. Like the little laser beams when the sun was just right would just like blast away anything on the goddamn horizon. Like what would happen with all the resources? Like you should definitely have like a little bit of maybe a stockpile, or maybe you should have, you know, maybe some conversion way of it, like with money for skulls or anything like that. Because like always, like why would you get skulls or infections from diamonds, right? Like you can always make a reason for it, but I mean, I kind of feel like that's the game's like, you know, thing that they should do, not like me, like, well, maybe they're just buying fighters and then they have an arena and I don't know, that many diamonds will give you 5 skulls, and when you have lumber, that's also that many fighters. It is so many skulls, you know. Like they should really do something with this.
I still want to know why they're getting this guy. Is it unsafe work practices in this lumber mill? Is it just that they have that much attrition that
it's just a world before OSHA, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, the trade in general in Warhammer is something that I almost chose, and I'm glad that I didn't, since you're kind of covering it here. But it just feels like very low impact. Like there's trade resources, you just build the buildings automatically because they give you resources. You have a trade agreement, you get loads of money. It's very simple. While the system in Troy is like, it is better, but it kind of like ended up being like almost too many resources to balance sometimes, which is weird. Like Stellaris has a Garillion resource. I never felt overwhelmed in that, but for some reason in Troy I was always like, oh well, I don't have enough wood to make these spearmen, but I have enough food to make these spearmen, and it always just felt like something was missing.
Yeah, I mean, like that's. I mean that's kind of the point, right? As well. I mean, I'm not saying you need like 17 different resources. You don't need like Stellaris or something like that, or Like, oh, what about my exotic gases? What about nanites and blah, 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 blah. You know, if, for example, dwarves would have Gromril for their higher tier units. If the Empire needed, I don't goddamn know, better gold. It's early in the morning, okay? I haven't woken up.
Do you think it was?
The thing is, I really liked the resources for Troy because I thought they made a lot of sense. Like food and bronze for units, perfect. And then you had wood and stone for buildings.
Yeah.
And then you had gold, which kind of covered the high end stuff, which I thought worked really well because I've always had this issue in Total War where if you spend up to your upkeep, like if you spend up to what you're making with your units, you have no money for infrastructure.
Yeah.
Which Troy and Pharaoh kind of go, it's fine because you're not using the same resources. Your buildings can be built with a different resource. And then it also made raiding actually useful because you could raid a province and get resources that you're not actually making. I thought in Troy that worked really well, but in Pharaoh, I didn't think it worked quite as well.
That's a very, very good point, actually. You got resources that you wouldn't make otherwise because raiding in Warhammer is, you know, kind of useless. You don't really use it that much. Like some factions might, but in general, like there's no reason for you to use a turn to just stand there and get like a small amount of income or anything like that.
The only time it's useless is for avoiding attrition and getting like 65 gold when you're trying to kill the wood elves.
Yeah, but then it's like encampment instead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
because then you get melee defense as well for in case somebody fights you and you don't like start winded and stuff.
The only races that actually make use of it are the ones that do it as a byproduct rather than there's no reason to actively go out and raid.
No, even with all the skills, it's like,
a
oh, wow,
waste.
I'm going from 65 gold to 85. Whoa. Or I could just raise the settlement or sack the settlement and get 10,000.
Yeah, there's never a point to just raid. And this has been kind of, I want to say this has kind of been an issue since Attila, where they kind of wanted you to have this sort of raiding economy, but it's also a paint the map game, so there's no reason to just raid. Because they had all these buildings which were like, oh, in the neighboring province you could get additional like sacking income. And it's like, well, that's great. I'll sack it probably twice in the entire campaign at that point because it's not going to be worth it in between those points.
Yeah, whenever I see those buildings that give you, this is like, the thread is so far behind, but real quick, whenever I see those buildings, it's like, oh, it gives buffs to units fighting in adjacent provinces. It's like, if I fight adjacent to this province, realistically, I can maybe do like 6 fights, all the settlements are gone, and then that building will be completely worthless for the rest of the game. So what's the I just never end up using them.
I think it's because Total War doesn't support a tall play style. Like you just have these places and then you just go out from there. Because the AI will just send you so many armies that you will just have to go and counterattack and either burn it down or, you know, whatever. But then like sacking a settlement that you burned down 15 times is like, you know, you're shifting through the ruins for like a couple of copper coins. Basically like, look, master, look, 25% extra now.
Pretty good.
Outside of Realm, which might have changed, Realms of Chaos, there was never any reason to get like, well, I've got my 10 settlements, I'm just gonna sit tight. And it's all down to the victory conditions. And the thread is just someone bring us back quick.
It's interesting because I am actually playing a Noctis campaign at the moment, and I am trying to play Tool in that I've only got Galleon's Graveyard.
The ocean toilets.
The ocean toilet, that's right. My big swirly moist hole in the middle of the ocean. So I've just been putting pirate coves everywhere to try and make an economy. And one, it's very hard to do that because it's like there's not actually that many coastal settlements, and you don't make a huge amount of money. I've actually had to get a mod to sort of make it slightly better. Otherwise, I'd be in dire straits. But even with something like, I want to say 24 to 25 pirate coves, I've got 2 armies. And one of those armies is currently at Galleon's Graveyard, fending off hordes of elves endlessly. Just Tyrion will show up, and then I'll beat him off, and then Altharion will turn up, and I'll beat him off, and then Alariel will turn. And apparently, it's because they've like dealt with Marathi and Nakari, so they've got nothing better to do but send hordes of elves at my swirling moist hole and just like dive into it. And I kind of feel like, well, I should have just exterminated them, to be honest, because that'd be the easier thing to do. But
yeah. I mean, you touched on this stuff that I always get annoyed by when I'm playing stuff like this. Like people be like, "Oh yes, well, for example, like black arcs are so good because you can do stuff at the coastline and stuff like that." It's like, well, you're not gonna be at the coastline that goddamn much, you know. Like, gonna be a little bit, but for the most of the campaign, you're not gonna use it.
Look, anyone in the comments who's about to write in there and go, "You've strayed off the point again," well. Frankly, at this point, if you've been listening to more than one of these podcasts, you should have expected that. So,
yes, because I missed. Anyone else got anything to add about resources? Because otherwise, I'm going to go into my next point because it ties in really well with this.
I quickly do. Yeah, I really like the resources from Pharaoh and Troy, and I also like the Chaos Dwarf. I really like the Chaos Dwarf. I want there to be more complex mechanics in Total War involving resources.
Yeah, make 100%. It into more of a supply chain than just, right, you have this resource and it gets you gold.
I was gutted that they didn't do that with Pharaoh. I was like, oh, they've done the Chaos Dwarves. Maybe they will have like an actual bronze. So you need like tin and copper, and then you need to like, you know, turn that into actual bronze, because that was like a big part of the economy, right? You needed those two resources. Those were the ones that you really
needed. Yeah, it was the shipping lanes were like really important back then. Yes, because you needed like things from far away imported tin and stuff like this.
And instead they just went, you just got bronze settlements, it's fine. I was like, that's a shame.
I mean, like that's probably like a little bit too much though. Just trying to like meld resources together. I'm actually gonna. I think that's might be a little bit too far.
No, I want them to treat me like a goddamn adult.
I'm a little baby.
Also, my favorite game is Soviet Republic Builders and Workers, or whatever it's called. Like, I want to, if I can't put on a bus stop on 2 places and then put the bus schedule and how they're allowed to travel on that bus.
If I don't need an actual city planner's qualification to play my game, I'm not interested.
Good day, sir. Good day.
That's exactly what I need.
Sorry,
your rant now.
No, I was going to go into naval battles, actually, because naval battles are really cool, but I'm gonna do this because it's not what people think it's gonna be about. Because Total War is such a complex beast, right? You have a 4X game, and you have like a pretty good 4X game as well. Like, you can play, like, some people just play the campaign map and just are happy with that, right? Some people only play battles and are really happy with that. And the battles are really good, and the 4X game is pretty good. And they combine that into like a humongous complex beast. And that's why nobody else makes anything like that at all, ever. Like, nobody ever makes a Total War game. Like, some people will try, but then you just notice really fast that, wow, it is like far away from what Creative Assembly can actually do. And yeah, it's like a janky beast full of holes, but, you know, it's cool still. And a lot of people want to like put in like another game into that as well, like a naval battle as well, and think that's gonna be cool and that they actually have resources and time to do that. I don't even have time or resources to do what they have now. Or like in 40K's, like Total War 40K, if that ever happens, probably will. Then people want, oh, well, can't we have like Battlefield Gothic into that as well? Like that entire game, just put that into it. But here's my deal. Because I think naval battles can still be cooler. You don't need to go to an island. You should have better maps for it instead. If you have 2 really big ships, you should have a map that is literally 2 ships and gangplanks on them. Like, really close quarter. Like, if you have cannons, lots of choke points. Like, like really close to each other. Like, it's not a big map at all. If you have cavalry, like, man, I really hope they're like really enjoy like long engagements and no cycle charging, right? Mm-hmm. If you're the vampire pirates, for example, you can have ambushes where you start, you know, and they're not ready for it on their part of the ship or something.
I'll just sat eating lunch at a big dinner table.
Yeah, you're sitting at a big table, like really long table, on top of it. Or some of them will run out from like the cabins or something. Or even if you're maybe even like you can crash their ship, so they start at a beach and you can like shoot with cannons or something from your ship. And Black Arcs should be a goddamn siege map. You just like they have their little boats anchored and their gangplanks, and then you have a fortress on the other side.
Yeah, that's a really elegant solution that would require like one map and then just cosmetic changes. Really, obviously you can make more than one map, but this is CA we're talking about here. You know, you kind of need to like temper your expectations.
But also like maybe have the choice as well, so that sometimes they'll be like, "What is it now? Like it's to go to the island and do it like sirs." And they're like, "No, fight now!" And then the rats just start blasting on their side of on their boats.
I'm just
the rickety ship.
like, two ships pull up next to you, like, "You want to fight here? Let's go over there. It's much easier over. Let's just fight over there. It's much easier."
Yeah, I believe that's what they do now, though. But I guess they are so organized that they just have 2 semaphore flags, something like that. They're like,
it makes sense.
All right, you go set up over there. We'll set up, and then we'll find like 10 minutes to set up. Okay, perfect. It's so gentlemanly. The Skaven, they're really honorful creatures.
The Skaven just answers straight away.
Interpretive dance.
Oh, they have flags.
Oh, I don't think Skaven would have flags. I think they just do it by dance, just like a really erotic Skaven dance. I know this is an aside, but have you ever seen a game called Rattenreich?
Yes.
Have you seen the weirdly sexy lady Nazi rat?
Yes.
What is that? Why is that a thing? Why is that rat so sexy? I don't understand.
Stupid sexy rat.
She's got her tartars are huge. I mean,
well,
special issue military gear.
So now we have all just observed the sexual awakening of a monster and his new fetishes.
I don't understand why the rat is so sexy.
I like
it. Feel this way.
It's so distressing.
What do you think of the naval battle solution? Master?
You will come to accept it. Yeah. What do you think of boats?
What do you think of sexy rats fighting on boats?
I'm against it, to be honest.
No, I do think that's a really smart way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I really like the naval battles in Empire and in Shogun.
I think you haven't played them in a while because they can be cool, but sometimes they just don't work that well. Sometimes it's bug outs.
They are quite janky, but I love the cinematics of them. But yeah. I've always said it does kind of feel a bit like, and I'm going to use a World of Warcraft example here because I've just fallen into it again. But it kind of feels like when you've got your character and you know exactly what you're doing, right? You've got your army, you kind of got this, you've got a general sort of like muscle memory thing of I know what these units do. And then it sort of like drops you into a whole new thing and you go, I don't know what any of these units do because naval battles never happened that often. It was always like 5 or 6 times throughout the entire campaign. So you always ended up with all these like new units that worked in a slightly different way, but were kind of familiar, and it always kind of like took you out of it a little bit. So I'm not really that sad that the naval battles aren't there, just because I think it would take more to get them to work properly.
Yeah, I think some people are like, no, I want that because we should have CA to a higher standard. It's like, yeah, I don't think they can handle that, and this is the higher standard. Like,
I mean,
however,
it would be nice if we could hold CA to a high standard, but we can't. I don't think they can get any higher. I
mean, I'm gonna be honest as well. Like, credit where credit's due. Like this year, they definitely have raised the standard. Like after their whole like, hey man, we did some bad things and maybe you didn't like them, and maybe we should try to do better because we have $1 billion franchise that we're tanking. So they've been doing really good.
They have, bless their little hearts. They have been trying, haven't they?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and you can actually tell.
Yeah, but sailing is definitely a good way of getting around the map, which is one of my things I'd like to be changed. Because segue. So
I know that we always like interrupt the really good segue, which is like mentioning that it's a segue as well.
It's the best way to do it. Otherwise, people don't realize. So I mean, I like the size of the Immortal Empires map. However, it is an absolute bastard to get away, to get around, isn't it? Like, it's if you're playing Carl, and you for some reason you want to go to Cathay, it's very unlikely you're going to get there before turn 200. Because every bugger along the way is going to try and fight you. So I found that actually I've been having quite a lot of fun in my Noctilus campaign because I'm just sailing around. I don't have to, I mean, obviously I have to worry about Galleon's graveyard, but at least all the elves are just like piling into my swirling moist hole, so I guess that's fine. And I can kind of just go and do whatever I like. And sailing is quite quick to get around, and you can use the little
sea lanes.
Sea lanes, yeah, to travel around. So that's good. But it's still kind of a pain. And I think campaigns are kind of like the Changeling, and also who's the little lizard boy?
Oxyotl.
That's the one.
With the ASMR.
Yeah, that's the one where you can kind of like jump around the map, and you kind of get to like experience different bits.
You want to see my my Oxyotl cosplay?
The skin type.
Look at this. Look at this. Oxyotl.
Ooh.
It's actually really weird.
Oxyotl.
What do you do? Have you got like a green coat or something? You're just like hiding.
He's just cranking his transparency.
I just like the idea he's got like a little coat and he's like covering himself, like wrapping himself up. And if we could turn that off, it would just be like him wrapped in a little green coat.
Not in this.
Anyway, yeah. So I think more factions should have more opportunities to travel around the map and experience different parts of it, because it does feel sometimes like you're kind of like boxed in. The Cathay factions don't really go across the mountains because the mountains are mostly inhospitable to them and a bugger to travel across, so they don't really bother. And they're not going to go into the Chaos Wastes. So you kind of end up like a little bit like contained rather than being able to sort of experience the other parts of the map, which I think is a bit of a shame. So I would like to see some more opportunities for travel.
They do have like ways and things like that, like teleportation wormholes almost, where they can just travel. Like Fetus and Gotrek just happens to be to go into one. They do need a lot of protection from Teclis, if I remember correctly, and then they wind up in Albion. From I can't remember exactly where they go from.
Yeah, it was the Giant Slayer book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I mean, the Lizard Men are doing it all over the place. I mean, otherwise the Lizard Men would never fight anyone. When you think about it.
Yeah, it seems like even me, who like has no lore, you could just make it as like, oh, a Chaos Portal's opened up. Where will it lead? And you just pop in and then like have to fight a couple of demons, and then you just hop out in wherever. You can like, oh, our mages have fought with this portal's magic, and it will take us to Norska, but you may encounter foes along the way.
It would be really cool though as well, because then you wouldn't go there in like full strength. It would actually be a risk to it as well.
That'd be really interesting, actually.
Mention of Wolfric, who is the only one who actually has teleportation in the lore.
Yeah, he should just get on his boat and just whee.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Wolfric would be like a perfect example of a faction that should have travel mechanics. And I think there's just so many more factions that you could like put that into and have them experience a lot more of the campaign map, particularly the naval factions, things like the Dark Elves and Norska, the High Elves. Those guys should be all over the place. And instead, I mean, if you want to play like one of the High Elf factions and sail to Cathay, you can do it, but there's no real reason to, because other than taking settlements, why do you need to go there?
Something really, really cool. Sorry for interrupting you there. I feel like I can't get you to start again, so I'm just gonna keep on going. Pull through here. So like, it would be really cool if you would get like, oh, a portal is open to like, and then would be a random place on the map every campaign. I think that would be really, really cool. Actually, it's like, yeah, you can just go there.
That would actually be like, if you had a random map open up, or there were just random portals dotted around the map that went to different places. That would like add threats to you. That would give you options for expansion. And like, you could turn it off in the options if you didn't want it. But I think that'd be a really interesting idea, actually.
And also that they could come in through there. So if you're Cathay, like a bunch of like molder rats would just come in or something like that.
Yeah, you could have it so that you can fight to close it. It's like, oh, our mage will be able to close this portal, but you will have to hold off the enemy while we do. And then you just do like a mini battle.
Yeah, like the Silver Pinnacle battle.
Get ready for the biggest. Hear me out. So hear me out. You go through the portal and you go into the Chaos Realms, and it's like the Nether in Minecraft, and you pop out of another portal, and it takes you much further away than you went in. So you go into the realm of Nurgle and go out another portal, and it takes you to wherever. It brings the Chaos Realms in that they made for Realms of Chaos, and let's be honest, no fucker plays that campaign more than once because it's boring. And then you can actually go to the Chaos Realms and do some stuff.
Yeah, you know what? That'd be quite interesting if they had sort of like a Chaos Realms map, which was all 4 of the realms sort of melded together. And
I wish
you could
the Chaos
like
Realms were cooler.
sort of like the Christ, which because so Slanesh was the big hole, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Seems
the
with all
circle.
the little bits.
Oh, it was
Spiral down.
It was the Nurgle one where you kind of had to travel across to get the immunity and then travel back, didn't you?
It was shaped like an X, wasn't it? I think. You can tell we just haven't played it for like 3 years.
Because it was bad. But if they made something like that, but like all 4 of the realms sort of like melded together, like merging into one another, and the portals were dotted around, and you had like demon armies.
That was so cool.
Sort of round. And then
I
you
want
had
to travel
like,
there, so then we have to go into the realm of Khorne. Go there.
Yeah, so I think that would just be really cool. Although they'd have to also get the AI to understand how portals work, which I think is probably not going to happen.
I mean, yeah. That'd be I mean, that's always the problem with Total War, getting the AI to understand how things work. But I think traveling the map is definitely a problem CA knows exists, because the Chaos Dwarves, not the Chaos Dwarves, the Dwarf Dwarfs got that ancient grudge.
Underways.
They got the new underways that lets them get around the map. I think having more stuff like that, because a lot of factions have access to the underways, like the Greenskins do, the Skaven do. I'm sure some others do.
Yeah, I mean, not that the underway stance is necessarily massively useful. Like for the most,
the things you get from the
like the
Book of
grand
Grudges.
underways. You know, you can like teleport to the different mountain holds.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
underways. So like, give some other factions access to that. Give them a few more points to come in and out.
I'd completely forgotten they had that, because I couldn't be asked to. By the time you kind of get access to them, it's
way
kind of too late.
Yeah, I did it once to show that you can do it. Teleported to put it in a video, and then never used it again.
Yeah, it's like you have to wipe out the Chaos Dwarves to get the ability to travel from one end of the Chaos Dwarf territory to the other, which I guess is kind of useful, but by that point you're kind of like, well, now my armies are all over the other side, so unless I need to suddenly move them all the way back, I don't really need to use this.
Yeah, I think the Realms is definitely the best idea to come out of that, because that'd be so cool. Just
I also think that like portals and stuff like that ain't necessarily bad, or doesn't dumb down the gameplay too much, because we've had that for the Chaos Dwarf Crisis since they implemented that. And goddamn, no one's complained about being able to like shut them down easily. No one ever does, or nobody is like.
Mind you, is anyone actually playing the Crisis?
Yeah, nobody goes. You know what? Who I really hate playing? Be'lakor. Him and his shitty portals.
I'd be really interested to like have some stats of how long the average campaign like actually gets played to. Like, is it 50 turns, 100 turns, while someone just gives up?
I suspect it's quite early, to be honest. I don't think many people get to.
I reckon.
No, I think some people go really ham and like really take the average up.
Yeah, some people, but like if you think about how many people play Warhammer 3, I don't know. I feel like the average will be below 100.
But I don't think that's a traveling issue. I think that's a snowballing issue, because snowballing is really awful, honestly, in the game.
It is.
Speaking of things that are awful, minor settlement sieges. They're not great. Like, it's I don't know how to like explain how they are bad. They just feel awful.
Fantastic
like,
podcasts.
It's a town, and then it's got walls, and then there's just corridors. It's like it doesn't feel right. It should have. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong notes. And then they've got the weird deployable spots. Like, the idea of defend a town and not having walls all the way around is like, it's good. But if you've got like truly no reinforcement, it shouldn't just be a fight in a field. I think you should still fight in the town, but then the town slowly gets built up to have like slightly more defenses. Make the deployables feel a bit more improvised. Maybe like what Total War was it where you could place those like sticks, and then if cavalry charge into them, they fall over?
Three Kingdoms.
There you go. Yeah, Three Kingdoms has like has really good minor settlement, and even like encampment battles. I remember you can like just put little deployables in here and there. I think deployables like a major thing that they've missed out on in Warhammer 3. They just don't feel good.
I don't think they can use them in the same way either, because Three Kingdoms worked a lot with like different counter mechanics to a certain degree. Like all of the heroes were supposed to counter different things, and cavalry was supposed to counter like anything that they got behind or was weak enough. But also they could be countered really easily, so there was nothing that was like unstoppable. In Warhammer, you have a lot of unstoppable stuff because they just don't have counter mechanics for stuff. Oh man, I should really put that up on the list as well. But let's go into magic in the end as well. Somebody remind me. But you're completely correct though.
Yeah, I mean they used to be able to fight miners' settlement battles rather than a field battle, and then they changed it because everyone said they were fighting too many settlement battles.
Yeah, that was the problem. Yeah. I think it'd also be interesting. Was it Britannia? Close enough. But had those battles where you can you can burn down buildings in the town and it like actually affect the settlement after the battle. I swear I've seen that.
Yeah, Three Kingdoms as well.
That'd be such
and Attila, I think.
What a great thing to have. And then like you can just have your buildings there, and then you're like actually forced to defend the entire town rather than just sitting in the middle and crowding units in a big blob and using all your towers to destroy them.
Not that damaged buildings actually have much effects.
Well, yeah, but
it's just you have to repair them after the battle.
It gives you some incentive. And maybe like, oh, well, all of our buildings have been destroyed. We have like a slight leadership debuff. Like just give you some incentive to actually hold the line and work outwards rather than just inwards and protecting the core. That's always what I end up doing in a well, if I ever play defense, which I haven't for like 2 years.
My main issue with sieges is the AI likes to just like attack from as many points as possible. So you end up sort of fighting 4 or 5 separate battles all over the place, which is really just maybe it's just me and because I'm old, but it kind of feels annoying.
I mean, that is fair, but at the same time, like, wouldn't that be what? I mean, I'm not saying that Warhammer 3 is historically accurate or anything, but wouldn't that be what actually would happen? Like, you would really attack from all sides.
I mean, like, you're both correct. You're just going at it at different angles because the problem here is the garrisons, right? So we're going back to the garrisons. The garrisons aren't good enough to be able to handle almost anything. Like a full army will just will be able to crush them, or it's going to be 2 armies, or they have 3 armies. Like very few times will you have a very fair battle. Obviously, like siege battles, you can win them fairly often, but like you say, minor siege battles that we're on about, like, yeah, that's almost never happening that you're winning those. That's like 10-20% of the time or something like that, which just means that the garrisons are inadequate, or that's like, it just doesn't work. If you can't defend this at least 50% of the time, and you're still trying to gamify all the sieges and all that, and gamify away all the strategy, then like, why even bother? Like, why not just go to those Britannias to have completely undefended ones to take a turn whenever you burn them down or something?
Yeah, they definitely need to work out. Like,
that was pretty bad.
They need to work out how it works when it's like not defended at all, and then like actually fully defended. There needs to, garrisons and defensive buildings on the whole, and sieges on the whole, really need like a big boof rework again. But yeah. Also, I wrote at the end of this, encampment stands should trigger a camp battle that offers some very minor advantages. That was another thing that I saw in 3K, which was amazing. Just like some like 4 little walls, some gates to gain, some little choke points. Not really that much defense because you can fire straight over the walls. It's just to stop units walking straight in, but it gives you a little bit of strategy.
I mean, all that just adds to immersion, right? Yeah. Immersion is always important, and immersion is not the same as realism, but it does add to immersion anyway. I usually have, for people who don't know the difference between realism and immersion, Sea of Thieves will let you climb into the cannon and get fired off to the other ship or through the waves and all that. It's not realistic, but it's incredibly immersive because the world just works like that. So inside that world, you can do that. And that's just immersive. So it works. But if you have an encampment stance in Total War Warhammer, you don't get an encampment.
No.
You get +5 melee defense or something, which is also cool, but, it's pretty good, though. I'd say that's actually pretty strong.
Yeah, it always just feels like they take the easiest way rather than the most interesting way for stances in particular.
Yeah, a lot of the mechanics always feel like they're a good idea, but they're just very shallow in many places. And I think where they do put effort into it, it always feels really good.
Yeah, I think the most horrible part about it is that that CA can do really, really cool shits, You just know that they didn't a lot of the time. Like, it's really shallow, like the changeling objectives. Best mechanics, best objectives in any Total War game, but really shitty payoff.
Yeah.
I swear to God, the amount of times in the Changeling I went, oh, this is going to be great, and I completed the mechanic, and it was just garbage. It just did nothing. I was like, oh, well.
The worst thing is, it sounds so cool. Like, don't the victory conditions make it sound like, oh, when this happens, the Empire's going to be in such fucking chaos. It's going to be like a fucking Drake concert at a preschool. Absolute insanity. And then it's just like, Carl's like, Marienburg, I kind of don't like you very much.
Right, by the time I managed to do that, there was only 2 Empire factions left, and they were both allied with each other, and there was no civil war. I was like, well, this is useless. What?
It'll be because it'll be like, oh, well, Carl has to fight this faction, and if Carl and that other faction aren't there, he'll just be like, well,
that's civil war over, I guess. Good job, everyone.
Last time I
triggered the Black Pyramids to the Empire, and it spawns like 3 armies of skeletons who instantly died, and that was it. That was just that.
Man, last time I did the Wood Elf Crisis, I was like, yeah, I can have. I just took like a random one, and then just took. You can enable diplomacy with them. But the only thing that happened was that the Wood Elves became the Crisis and brought in all their allies, which were High Elves, towards me.
Excellent.
It's like fantastic. Exactly what I wanted.
Can I segue to Crises now? Because that was one of mine.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, Crises is terrible and they should be better. That's
fair.
the whole thing.
You got even know it's boss.
God, they're so bad. This comes down again to like one of those mechanics where there's such promise there, but there's almost like the bare minimum put in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those crises were just, we're going to respawn the factions and you're going to hate it. And that's the mechanic. Yeah, and they did do ones with slightly more, like with the Chaos Dwarves, which was nice. But they're still basically just anti-player mechanics.
Why was the Chaos Dwarfs one nice?
Because it gives you the option to kind of travel to them. And there's a set objective as well. The set objective is take those 3 cities. That's it, you've won. Good job.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot more sense than, hey, we've just spawned a lot of orcs across the entire world. Go deal with that.
Yeah. Going into immersion once again, almost.
Yeah. So at that point, it just, to be honest, a lot of the crises just feel like chores to complete, rather than exciting events that are taking place in the world. And I think that's my main complaint, is that it feels like it's a let's get the player, not a oh no, look, the Black Pyrenees is rising. What could this mean for the world? It's just, oh no, let's go kill the player again. Yeah,
the word build is like apocalyptic events, and then they happen. It's like, oh, so there's 6 skeleton stacks, and they seem to be getting closer every turn. Yep, they're definitely running straight toward, not attacking. Nope, coming straight. Okay.
Yeah, I had the Black Pyramid Crisis. I was playing as Durthu, one of the Wood Elf factions, and the Black Pyramid had died really early in the campaign. It died like turn 5 or something stupid like that. So when it spawned, it had been at war with no one for the entire campaign, which means when it respawned, the only person it was at war with was this guy. So you just had this train of skeleton armies like traveling all the way from Nehekara all the way up around Estalia, all the way to me. And at that point I went, well, this is bullshit.
Yeah, at a certain point, you're standing there on the command bridge of the Enterprise, and you don't want to press the crisis button. Instead, you just sigh. It's like...
And I mean, that's the reason I don't play them anymore, because I'm just like, why do I want to make my life harder? Why do I want to make... Because it's not fun. It's not particularly enjoyable to deal with. It's just stacks and stacks of stuff that want to try and kill you and slow you down. That's it.
Yeah, I think 2 things from my suggestion would be automatically have them declare war with everyone, like the OG Chaos Invasion. That just seems obvious. And also make them affect the map. So maybe, is there a Chaos or like a Skaven one? Maybe just have it so that like Skaven, that Undercity building that makes armies pop up, they just spawn in like every faction's capital all at once. Like instantly, they're happening. You can't really do much to stop it. I mean, it'd be kind of bullshit, but it'd also be like, oh shit, this is bad. Skaven are everywhere. Although that probably lagged the game to oblivion if you spawn that many armies, but I digress.
I mean,
but yeah, and then there also needs to be a way to defeat it. Like, it can't just be you need to exterminate them, because the Crisis spawns armies so quick. Like, it has, obviously, it's got boosted recruitment or something, and it just spawns armies out of its arse.
Yeah,
so I remember trying to wipe out the Greenskins was an absolute logistical nightmare. Even when they only had a couple of cities left, they were still like spawning armies left and right, and I was having to chase them all over the place.
It seems like a similar problem to the Realms of Chaos, where you'd beat the campaign and then the rifts are just like still open, and you're like, well, I've stopped him. Why is this happening? Bellicor is literally in my Kislev army right now, fighting alongside some Kossars. Why are the rifts still opening? Yeah,
I think they really need like. Yeah, I think they should have like a Shield of Civilization kind of mechanic as well. So like the destruction factions will actually like line up together, and like the order faction will line up when a crisis is actually spawned. Because it doesn't make sense like if one of them happens, but also like they need just better ones. Yeah, like Stellaris basically. If you're in the galactic community or whatever it's called.
Well, there is one of the victory conditions overhauls for Cal Franz makes him unite all the order side factions in preparation for the end times.
Could be. That's pretty cool. They should also just have like different types of shits. Like there's no fun in just having like all the dwarves or all the orcs and stuff like that. They should have like different things. Like imagine they would be like, you can tell like magic is going up in the entire world for like 10 turns. So magic is just like winter magic is going up, and then like bam, demons everywhere, and everybody's just like, hey, you want peace? Because I got shit to deal with. And everybody just tries to survive like this demon onslaught, or like Skaven just starts rising up everywhere. Like you just have like 1 or 2 armies just spawn here and there for 20 turns, and then they just like rise up.
If you're playing one of the demon factions, that should have like a different effect to you. So maybe like your opposing demon Chaos God is suddenly out to get you for whatever. If you're playing Nurgle, then suddenly you've got Zinch army spawning and trying to kill you because they do not like that you're in the mortal realm, something like that. That would just, but the problem, I think the problem is that I suspect that the Crisis was like a little side project for a couple of devs who maybe went, this will be cool, and they never got actually any time to deal with. And I think a lot of this problem is the fact that CA seem to be incredibly like, they're so penny pinching. They desperately want to keep their budget, so they kind of have this thing where they're so scared to spend more time.
I think that's a Sega problem. Because they have to go to Sega for every single budget as well.
If you're a Sega executive, fuck you. We don't like you. Fuck off. Go back to your Lamborghini.
No, they should just get better people to like ask for the budgets. Maybe I'm not like giving shade to anyone. I don't know who that is or how those meetings go, but it's like you should probably try to negotiate just more every single time, just to get like more devs to do shit and see if it works. Just do it for a couple of turns and see what the payoff is. If everybody just enjoys more polished things, right?
Which I think is. I mean, you look at Baldur's Gate 3, which. They've got so much acclaim, they've won so many awards, everyone loves that game, and it's because they spent more time polishing it, adding things to it that they didn't necessarily have to, that probably wasn't on their project sheet, and that someone went, oh, maybe this will be a cool idea, and they kind of ran with it and kind of polished it and didn't just go, oh, we'll just slap it in and see what happens. And I feel that's what happens a lot with Total War, is they have this good idea, someone goes, oh, what about we do this, and they go, oh yeah, let's just put it in. So they do like the bare minimum, and it's if they just spent a couple more weeks on it, it would have been really good.
I mean, that's just every game these days. I can't remember who it was. I saw a thing, my friend told me about a thing. It was like an executive said, oh, can we like release this game? Oh, it was Monster Hunter Worlds. They said, can we release the game this year because we want money? Like, it was like a shareholders meeting. Like, can you just release it now before it's ready, so that we can make money now? These are the people that this is who's ruining the games industry. But,
I mean, it's really always like when you involve money into creative businesses, right? Like when you try to create something cool and you have to be penny pinching about it. Because it's so weird as well, because you guys have played Owlcat games, right? Yes. Because I know you guys have played Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is a different level of polish than Owlcat games, because Owlcat games usually start off pretty cool and then they fall apart fairly rapidly as you do go towards the ending. Yeah, and like they're beautiful in their own way. And some of my favorite games of all time are Owlcat games, and like Baldur's Gate 3 I adore. But like, do you know the difference in the studio sizes for those two games? Like, first of all, I want you guys to guess which one is the bigger studio.
I would guess Baldur's Gate 3.
That is correct. Do you guys want to guess with how many people?
I'm not good at guessing these things.
I get the sneaking suspicion Owlcat games are actually very small.
They have 20 people more than Owlcats.
Whoa, really?
Oh my God.
Wildcat is 450 employees, and then Larian is 470 from Wikipedia. And it's really one of those things where Larian has almost gone bankrupt like 2 or 3 times or something, because they just like want things ready and they want things good. And now they're winning prize, and like everyone just loves them from the get-go.
That's similar to Remedy, who makes like Control and Alan Wake. They are just constantly in the red. But they're just like, well, we just make really cool games, so...
Yeah, but they also have a different take on it, because they're like, yeah, Alan Wake is in the red, but the projected like being not in the red anymore is like within cool 18 months. So they know that they will keep on selling, and they have projections for like when it's going to be on sales and things like that as well.
Not short-term profits over everything.
It's crazy, really crazy.
Anyway, do we have a segue coming up, or?
Anyway, I've got one more thing to say in Crises Battles. How do you feel about integrating survival battles with them? Because like they were kind of cool. Granted, a little bit overdone. But there is survival battles for every faction in the game. You could just like plop one of those as the boss battle, and then once that's done, the Crises tapers off to an end.
I'm going to say something here, which may put the cat amongst the pigeons, but I think the concept of survival battles isn't necessarily bad. I think the implementation was bad, and I think the problem with the implementation was the fact that if you are a defensive shooty army, you're probably going to have a good survival battle, because that's basically what those are based around. If you're playing an army which is more charge based, it's going to be complete bullshit.
Because greenskins, Christ,
right? Because they just keep spawning units in. So you can't like rear charge units, because if you rear charge a unit, you're just going to have an enemy unit coming in behind you anyway. I think survival battles need to be sort of wave. So you need like an enemy army to come in its full, like this is the enemy army. There's going to be no more units coming in between. Enemy army comes in, you deal with that. Then an enemy army comes in, you deal with it. It's going to be that kind of thing, not like constant just wave assault, because that.
Props to whoever made the Silver Pinnacle thing when you build a building and like 10 vampire armies just spawn and they're only going to go for the Silver Pinnacle. There's no bullshit of burning down small shit everywhere, just annoying the crap out of you. They just go for the Silver Pinnacle. That's good enough. They're going to just try to take that with all their mice. It's just great. It's good times.
No, it's bullshit.
I think that's like a better one, with that they actually focus on something instead of just burning down everything around us.
Okay,
that's like a survival battle.
It is. I wasn't. The thing is, there's no sort of like what it said. People will try to take it. I was like, okay, so I'm guessing it's going to be like 1-2 armies, not the fucking trail of destruction. Like I was trying to kill my way up the armies, and I was like, how many more of these are there? There's so many of them. There was like 14 of the bloody things. It was way too many.
Do you like the Monday to Friday more, or Saturday, Sunday? Because it sounds to me that you really like the weekdays more than the strong days.
Nice.
Oof, I feel like I've just been run over.
Speaking of weak things,
oh, good, nice segue.
The siege equipment. All right.
I actually wanted to just say one more thing about the crisis.
Just to abuse me.
Sorry, but like the crisis, they need more immersion. Like they need some other threat. It shouldn't be like an old faction that used to be friendos, and then just like they get a budget of like 5 different countries all combined into every single army. It should be more immersion based, like things spawning. Like take Stellaris for an example. People will stop their wars. They will actually try to work together for the crisis, because the crisis is tough. They will murder everyone if you don't. And they just need a little bit more build up and something immersive that actually happen, like some outside threat or something, right? They can't just have like a normal goddamn faction, because that's weird.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The entire thing needs to be overhauled. It needs to be deeper. There needs to be more stuff going on. There needs to be more events, and it just needs to be not what it is.
Yeah, sorry. Now we go into this.
Now we can segue.
Yeah.
Segue. Siege equipment. Right, prepare to applause. Remove arse ladders. Thank you. Right, so beyond. Oh my god! Wow, look at this. Thank you. Right, so beyond that, like, see, just expand the equipment selections, make it a bit more interesting. Yes, you can have ladders, but instead of just being up their ass, it's something they have to carry. They can move move faster than towers, but still a little bit slower, but offer no protection because towers they're just basically invulnerable if you're one of those bad boys. Reduces movement, speed, and combat capabilities, and then battering rams. Have you ever used a battering ram and the unit hasn't been essentially dead by the time it gets there?
No.
Right, make battering rams better to provide support for the units. You can make them take a little bit longer to build if you want. That's just fine. But then also make them usable on walls. Because why wouldn't they be? Walls are destructible. Gates, it's the same thing. Reading my notes. Oh, and then, this is my most exciting idea. Faction unique equipment. So maybe some Skaven warp bombs that you put on a unit of Skaven slaves and it slows them down, but they get there and if they plant them on the wall, it just... It'd be really interesting to just give something unique per faction. Maybe the dwarves have a bigger tower that can also shoot or something when it's on the way and it's this big steam machine that moves. Just interesting things.
The dwarves have a giant stone stairway. It's that they just push in and it's poof, and now they just walk in at a ramp.
Exactly, just something unique and interesting. And my final note says, it won't happen because multiplayer would be unbalanced for the 6 people that play it. Keep it single player only. It's about time we had a separate balance. Which I've been saying for years because why do we balance for multiplayer? It's pointless.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that one.
Just more options.
I mean, sieges should be incredibly one-sided, and you should have equipment also to be able to try to deal with that. To actually try to even the odds of that. But with that siege equipment, it should be one-sided as all heck.
Yeah.
Because right now the only ones that can deal with artillery and things like that are the Skaven with menace from below, and that's basically that's the one faction that can do anything. Otherwise, they'll just shoot the towers really quickly, and then they the defender can't do anything. Just trapped.
Yeah, it does definitely feel like sieges are ridiculously lopsided towards the attacker. And if you can do that, just lean into that. Make it so defensive equipment is ridiculously good. Because I don't know about you, every time I get a siege, I just queue up 2 or 3 towers and then wait for it to say decisive victory. And if it never gets close, I'll get all my towers and fight the battle myself.
Yeah, I mean,
battering rams.
Yesterday I was playing Elsef and I lost the defensive siege against 2 rat armies, and they had 2 half armies left, and Elsef had 5 units in her army, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just take it back then. And just with Elsef, I just went and took the city back the next turn, which is, that's not how it's it's not supposed to be easier to attack all the time. There's a lot of time as well when I'm playing. It's well, this is attacking siege, so I'd rather take that against 2 armies than having to fight them on the battle map, because it's just so much easier to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so weird because as the attacker, you always choose how to engage and what to do, and you can choose these make situations good for you instead, while the defender can't do that, which is insane in a siege. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, the maps, they did get their rework and then they've kind of rolled back on it. I think they should just feel a bit more like a real tiered settlement. You have your outer walls, and if you don't have arse ladders, they're moderately easier to defend. And then you've got your inner walls, and the towers should actually do something, do some real damage. Should be able to mount artillery pieces on the walls. Why the fuck have we not been able to do that? Just leave them there.
I just got a really good idea. Imagine you're sitting there and defending Calador with their dragon buildings, right? Inside the city, you see the dragon tower. And then you have a little army ability where it's call dragon reinforcements from the tower. So if you have military buildings, you can spawn them in the battle, not as the part of the garrison, but in the battle. So it's oh, well, we do have these, we can produce storm vermin here. Well, why wouldn't storm vermin help us out? Are they sitting in the barracks? It's just
Just chilling.
incredibly very bad shape cities in. Yes, indeed. It just doesn't make sense. It's like, unfortunate, disastrous.
Yes, sieges. I mean, they could be reworked for 5 years, and I think there'd still be some problems. But at least the engines would be interesting.
I think the siege maps are too big.
Yeah, he said it.
I'm gonna say I disagree with this. I do think that the capturing points are nonsense. Because it's like, oh yeah, boys, we have to leave now because they stood on that place for like 20 seconds. And like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, apparently they have this. And then like, even if you have full garrison, they just leave, right? It's just immersion once again. Like everyone just leaves.
I think it does also come back to my first point, woven like a quilt, this one. Well, like garrisons are just shit. Like if garrisons are better, defensive sieges when you don't have an army already sat there would be a lot better. Because you could actually like pick the units that you have some artillery sat in the inside, picking apart enemies as they come.
But also, imagine if you could summon units, because then you would still have 20 units in the garrison at max level, plus extra, which would also help a little bit.
But how many times in a siege battle do you travel particularly far into the city? Like once you've lost the walls, basically.
Yeah, it's just for defending.
So my point with the big cities is that you can make the cities as big as you like, but at a certain point, you are basically just going to go, I'm not using 80% of this, because by the point that I've got inside the city and made my way sort of like 15% inside of it, I've probably killed all the enemy units, and they're now breaking through army losses.
Yeah,
like there's some cities which are so stupidly large that you'll never get to the victory location.
How would you make them instead?
Personally, I thought the sieges in Warhammer 1 and 2 were fine.
I think they were a little bit too basic, because most of them had 2 squares and 2 streets.
And I would like to see them more complex. I would like, but I think you can have the illusion of like the city in the distance, right? But I think what you actually are saying is that the enemy armies attacking this section of the city, if they get inside, basically at that point, the city's lost, right? You're never going to be able to hold them if they're inside the city. So the point is that you're trying to stop them from getting like through the line of defense. So you kind of want to have that aspect of, this is like a strong point, we're going to hold this, and it's based on the defender having all the opportunity to defend and the attacker having to get through that. But I don't think you need this like giant. So people are going, we need an entire city. But
so how much larger than Warhammer 2 settlement do you think we should have?
To be honest, I think some of the Warhammer 2 settlements were fine. They were like the size of them was absolutely fine. Some of I'm thinking like the vampire. Some of the cities, they had, I say, like 3 or 4 blocks of buildings, and then you were sort of at the victory location, and that's fine. I don't think you need it bigger than that. I think you need to make it more interesting. I think you need to like strong points. It needs to be more. You need to like be able to focus the attacker in certain directions so that you can use your defensive units to try and hold them. That's where you maybe more sort of deployables that are more useful, particularly more useful positions. But when you're looking at cities like some of the Cathay ones, where they can attack from literally almost 360 degrees.
It's way too MP balanced with too many counterpoints, stuff like that. Definitely. Yeah, I think Warhammer 2 was not fine at all. I disagree with you on that one, but I will actually come to the middle ground here and say that GCCM was like one of the most subscribed mods in Warhammer 1 and 2 throughout their lifetime. And some of them, like Karasakarak, had like giant drawbridge, small place, giant wall, and just place to stand up towards the giant wall, and that was it, right? It was like larger than a normal map, but you're still like conveying that this is where we will fight. This is the front line. Because dwarves, like in the lore, I can't remember if it's like Barak Var or something, where they have, or like a lot of them anyway, have, even before they even get into the mountain, they have to go through this ridiculous gate. There's like slits where they can just shoot crossbows and can't be shot back at. They have like these giant things where if they pull a lever, a giant saw blade will just like be shot out and bounce around on the battlefield, murdering tons of stuff. You know, like before you even get there, it's like they definitely need. It should probably be a little bit less large, but I don't think they need to do Warhammer 2 style, because those were weird.
I like the idea of having like super defensible cities. The only problem with that is at that point you're kind of like saying you need time to siege them down. Like you need time to build your siege equipment, you need time to wear down the defenders through attrition, whatever.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that because the AI, particularly on the higher difficulty levels, will almost always outnumber your armies, that if you lay siege for more than 2 turns, you're bound to have another 3 AI stacks converging on you.
Yep.
So the likelihood of you ever being able to take a city then is negligible unless you can rush it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bigger I think there's like a wider sort of general issue in that it really is this sort of anti-player bias that the game has. It's not a simulation of the Warhammer world. It's, oh look, there's a player, let's get him. And I think that causes a lot of other issues.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do hear your like what you think about how you wouldn't be able to take a city, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine by me. Like if everybody has struggling to take a city, I'm fine with that. If the AI doesn't struggle and I'm the only one, if they can just take cities and I struggle with them all the time, that's a game balancing issue. That's a really bad problem. But if everyone struggles and everybody has a hard time, yeah, perfect, man. Perfect. I want to put in seasons, man. I want to put in like, oh yeah, shit, it's winter time. People march at half the speed now. You know, like slow down the campaigns like a ton. Have military supplies. You're like, oh yeah, shit, they've been in my territory for like 3 turns. They're gonna start attrition really heavily because they don't have no apples or something. You know, like keep on doing that all the time. I want all that.
I like that idea. However, being that Total War is mostly like the poster child is the battles, right? So if you slow the campaign map down to the point where you're not having battles very often, I think that's going to be a problem.
The Kingdoms has all those things.
Second most played Total War game on Steam.
Yes, but also no. I think the sieges in Three Kingdoms aren't difficult.
No, but they are better. They also don't have ass ladders. Instead, they have ropes.
They do have ropes,
which are like, it's the same thing, but it's immersive. Also, nobody complains about it.
Marginally easier to pull from your ass as well.
Yeah, it's a grappling hook. I just really like that how they just have animation for that.
Depending on which way you pull it out, I guess. You don't want to get that the wrong way around.
I'm just imagining like right, we need to man the walls, and then someone's pulling out like a clown handkerchief.
Oof.
I learned yesterday that the clown song was actually made by a composer who wanted soldiers to have something really epic to march to war with.
Oof.
But now it's just clown. Now it's just associated with clowns.
I'm just imagining like a scene from 300 and that's playing.
Yeah.
Battle of Thermopylae. Right, so we got any other things to change?
I do have one, and the one is I want Creative Assembly to be more community driven. It's a bit meta, but we used to have regular streams from Creative Assembly. We used to have more information, and that just seems to have dried up. Like, although they have been a lot better recently, it's certainly not all there yet. And like they used to have, and I know this was done by like people at Creative Assembly who were just
not there
doing this on their own time, but they used to have like the games night stuff, like where they used to play board games, and that was really cool, and I really liked that. And I know that that's not probably something Creative Assembly are ever going to do again, because that's just like something, but it felt like you had people at Creative Assembly that you knew, and now you don't really have that, and you don't really get any communication from them, and it's all very sort of like corporate. And I think that's a problem, because I think if you become too corporate, just kind of it's just not as fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely having more open communication with everyone, us and the community. We've been saying in the back end of this podcast, behind the curtain, that we'd like to get some devs on to talk to them and interview them for a long time, and I just don't think it's going to happen, because CA is just like locked up so tight. They just don't want to tell anyone until they are extremely good and ready, and when they are good and ready, we will have about 5 minutes notice.
Yeah,
probably. I've had interviews canceled absolutely last minute when I asked them, "Oh, are these questions okay, by the way?" And then it just got canceled straight away.
Yeah. When the next oh god, my voice is going. When the next when the next DLC season comes around, I think we will absolutely push to get a dev interview when there's some new information coming. But yeah, it will be nice to see, but I'm not holding that much faith, sadly.
No, it has got better. There was a point, I want to say, like last year, where getting any information out of them was like blood out of stone.
The video they did about the newest DLC was like the best they have been in years. So like more of that. Don't just go silent for 6 months and leave us in the dark.
It felt like towards the end of Warhammer 2 and the release of Warhammer 3, it just sort of, like, I don't know what happened to CA's humanity, but it just sort of like died a death, and then we got nothing, and then Warhammer 3 came out, and then from that point until the point where they went, oh shit, maybe we've been doing this wrong, it was just, it felt so corporate, so grey, so boring, so done by spreadsheet.
And we all love a spreadsheet, but
I love a spreadsheet.
They don't make the best drinking partners.
No. So I would like to see. I can't remember the last stream they did, to be honest. But I really liked it when they had Wheels as I think he was like the community manager.
No, I think he was video dude, wasn't he?
But
that was a long time ago now.
Yeah,
it was like 2018 or something.
It really was, wasn't it? It was like pre-COVID. But that was such a good time, I think, for Creative Assembly to have sort of communication with people, and I would like to go back to that, please.
Yeah, I think they get too scared. They're like, oh well, if we give too much information, people. And they have definitely done it in the past where they've given out information and then whatever they've said, like, oh, this thing's going to happen, and then it just doesn't. And I was like, well, you said it right here. So I think like they're too scared to get egg on their face that they're just not saying anything.
I mean, to be fair, though, it's like twice that it's happened that what they say is going to happen hasn't happened, which is always like disturbing, because like after Rome 2 and Attila, they obviously like started being very, very careful with what they were saying. But after that, they really, like with the Warhammer release, they did start to like have a really good goodwill from the community, and what they said really like what's going to happen. But then like the Three Kingdoms debacle came out, and they had promised like the Northern armies, or not promised, but like they had said they was going. So I don't know if you want to say it promise or not. But yeah, and then also, the next one was now we were going to get Slanesh DLC, right? It's not like a lot of times they've actually not done what they were supposed to do, I guess, since then at least. I mean, credit where credit is due, like they still have their faults.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as you are open, I don't think people mind. I think if you go say, oh, we're going to do the Northern armies, and then you come out and say, look, the problem was that this wasn't doing as well as we'd wanted, and so therefore we've had to rethink our plans. I think people are generally, if you actually give figures and say, well, look, here's how it was doing, it's just not viable at the current time. We maybe want to try something else, but we're not entirely sure. I think as long as you keep people updated, I don't think people mind. I think it's when you go and say like, oh, we're going to do a Northern DLC, and then go, yeah, we're going to do a different Three Kingdoms, and then say nothing else.
Yeah.
And then at some point you just drop the quietly that, oh yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
You're always better saying too much and then re-explaining later than saying nothing.
I don't think that works, because the problem with Creative Assembly is that they're owned by Sega, and Sega has a stock price. So whatever you say will affect their stuff, because the creative assembly is like a huge part of their income as well. At least sometimes, like in when was this Three Kingdoms was released? Because I remember like reading the Sega profit reports, and the year with Three Kingdoms got released, the only things that made Sega money from like the entire company was Three Kingdoms and their pachinko machines.
Yes.
And that's it. That's what they had a profit on, and I guess that's why you would own a lot of property as well, so that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So something will always turn a profit. But I mean, like if they would go out and say like, "Hey, your King DLC wasn't doing well," stock price would very like bloop. And stock prices don't have much to do with reality. It is a speculative investment. Yeah, I think like they just can't say anything, because then Daddy Sega will come and literally just beat them like the dirt man.
That's a valid point.
Big sad.
I agree.
Fred, did you have one more with I think you said something about
Yes.
magic?
Yes, I did actually. Thank you for mentioning that one. I was actually going to do a silly... I was actually...
That's probably the best segue yet.
Probably. So I think like Magic should have a little bit of overhaul, because Magic right now is kind of weird. Like some stuff is too fast. Like the warp lighting is like ass to play against unless you're like really thinking about it all the time. Like a lot of spells are just weird, and some of them can just spam spells constantly, and it's just like buffs need like an overhaul. Like debuffs need an overhaul as well. They just need to be more powerful, because like damaging spells are just so aggressively better. I think like at some point they're probably going to do like a buff and nerf of those as well, but they should really have stuff like counter magic, for example. Like if somebody's doing a big spell, you just have like a couple of slots, and you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna use as much winsome magic as they do just to cancel it.
That's such BM.
Yeah, well, like, or twice as much magic is like cancel it. And you can just keep on doing that. So you have a counter mechanic, because the game has too little counter mechanics. They so little counter mechanics. It's like insane. They have stuff that is supposed to be better against stuff, but sometimes they just don't. And I think that's weird. Like Magic should just be like more of a thing you have to actually micromanage a little bit. If you want to, like for example, like Dark Elves could have sacrificed a bunch of slaves to get more magic. If you have like a necromancer or a vampire on the battlefield, or a cultist for demons or something like that can channel magic all the time, they shouldn't crumble. Like they shouldn't crumble in the last bit. They should actually fight like they're unbreakable all the time. If you have something with a con that can actually channel that magic all the time, because that's how they work in lore, right? Like you have necromancer and stuff like that to just channeling magic into them. Because basically necromancy is just, you have a bunch of dark magic, you chuck that into a corpse and you try to control that. So the really big thing like with the tide that Helman Gorse makes is that he just like puts in a ton of dark magic into those things, and they're just like more sturdy and everything like that. So you just have, small minor things like that just elevate it. So you don't just need, maybe, from this gold mine you just get skulls all the time. You can actually use that for magic systems as well. Or obviously Khorne doesn't use magic, but you can use it for something else, like for counter magic or something. I don't actually know what to do with skulls. That was a super bad example, actually. But you don't need like
you leaned into it, which I appreciate.
Yeah, but just chuck gold bars at them as counter magic. Here's casting your spell. Chuck. It's like, dang.
Saw that video of the guy getting hit by the brick.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, glorious.
And then it's just a small explosion from miscast.
Yeah, I think magic is like, it's not bad, but I know what you mean. Like, if I have the option of using a damage spell or something that gives my units like 25% weapon strength, I'm always going to just be like, well, I'll just use the damage, because it will do burst damage, which, if I'm not wrong, heavily impacts leadership a lot more than just taking a bit more sustained damage over time. So it's just always the better option. And randomly moving spells, is it just me, or are they like just utterly worthless all the time?
Sometimes they're okay. Depends on how you use them. Like Flamestorm, if you use them in a siege and it just rampages on the other side of the walls, that's fine, for example, because it lasts like 50 seconds.
Flamestorm's the only one I like because it lasts so long. Like that's one you can fight. Some of them, like Purple Sun, doesn't last long enough to actually. It'll just do a little bit of damage and wander off.
Yeah, it just always feels like to me, it just like, oh, what's over there? Is there a cheesecake? I've got to go see that thing, and it just away from the fight.
Yeah. Purple Sun is fine though on like Elsef because she gets it so cheap. Like Overcast 7 wins of magic or 6 or something. So
if you're going to spend like 14 wins of magic on it and it's going to do absolutely nothing, then Pit of Shades and stuff is just so much better.
Oh, amazing.
They are. Or Comets. Comet has. Have you guys ever read the like damage numbers on these things? Because everything else is like, oh yeah, this one will do like 8 damage a second. This one does like 150. Some stuff goes up to maybe 100, 150, stuff like that. But Comet Cazador does like 1,700 something. Okay. Just utterly annihilates shit underneath it. I love it. It's one of my favorite spells ever.
I guess it kind of makes sense. I mean, there's literally a comet slamming into you, so...
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how much armor you have at that point. You're just going to get wrecked.
No, you're going to... Yeah, that's like world-ending apocalypse. Yeah. But I wish that the spells were a bit more... Like, if you use certain spells on infantry, they melt. Like, they just explode.
Mm-hmm.
If you use that same spell on monstrous infantry, it barely tickles them. Like, it's basically pointless.
It's because it's entity-based damage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is this... I'm not actually... I thought it was the hitboxes were weird or something like that, because like Fiery Rain, for example, just murder Dreadsorians and stuff like that.
I'm not sure.
Or maybe it is.
I think it does damage to... I think it does damage to each entity.
Oh, yeah.
So if it does a huge amount
that makes
of damage
sense,
to an
actually.
entity, then it's going to do a huge amount. So the problem is you kind of end up with this situation where you can use a spell on infantry and it turns them into a fine paste, and you use the same spell on like a unit of ogres and it does basically nothing.
That makes sense, actually, because if you have like 100 dudes, you use Pit of Shades, and that's like 8 damage a second on every single entity that gets caught in there. That's going to be a lot of damage, compared to like one dude who's like 80 or 160 or something.
I mean, the most like obvious thing that happened is Fate of Boona, I think it's called, from Death, like deals damage per entity. So if you use that on a Lord, it's like 200 damage. If you use it on a like stack of 150 swordsmen, it's ridiculous how much damage it does. It melts them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fair enough. I'm not really sure how you could change that to be a little bit more balanced, but yeah, I think of all the problems with Magic, that's probably like,
Yeah, that's one spell, and like the Lord stuff is also like a little bit weird, because like on campaign the single targeting spells aren't that good, because in multiplayer like everyone is basically a level 1 Lord, right? Mm-hmm. With items and abilities and things like that and spells, but in campaign they get such scaling health pools that trying to deal with any of them gets very tricky with Spirit Leech and stuff like that. You have to spam it quite a lot more. Same with like the magic missiles and things like that. Like at least end game, obviously you can still use it on the level 1 or level 5 or level 10 Lords and stuff. But yeah, counter mechanics is something I would like. Counter magic, some form of counter magic. Like maybe you can just do a ritual with your goddamn skull, something like that beforehand, so they get more miscast. So the shitty Skaven will just start exploding himself every single time as well, so he can murder himself. Cool things like that. I would just like to have counter mechanic stuff. Counter mechanics in general, like, dang, this is actually a tangent though. This is a bonus point. Lethality in Pharaoh Dynasty Edition is really cool. And I've been like toying with the idea of having lethality. Like, imagine if you have lethality on only cavalry in Warhammer, and you only have it on spearmen that are braced on cavalry as well. Like, those are the only ones that get lethality, right? Like as a counter mechanic and a cool mechanic, right? So only in the charge portion do you actually get lethality, for example. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I really like lethality as a mechanic. I think it's...
Stop yawning. Sorry. You're going to answer this question. This is interesting, okay?
I'm not really sure what lethality is.
Lethality is that you have a small chance, like 2%, 3%, 5% chance to just instantly kill something.
That's cool.
Yeah, so in Pharaoh, I think it's 5% for spears, and I think it's 14% for axes, I want to say.
It
What
just
is
makes
swords?
battles a little bit more random, a little bit faster, and more interesting. Because before it would just be blobs, but now it's like actually stuff happening in it. Like the battles became way more, like much more interesting.
I think
felt.
that is a very cool and like realistic change. Yeah, but I'm happy with that. I think.
Yeah, it's a good way to be able to differentiate units, because otherwise you've got, you know, swords and spears just have, I don't know, charge defense.
Spears are better though.
And now you can go, okay, so my spears will be more defensive but won't have a chance to kill. Whereas if I have swords, they have they might be able to actually eke that out, because they do have that extra lethality. The only thing I would like is like either an animation or just a notifier to go like when that has actually happened. Because at the moment it's just you just throw and you just kind of go, well, I guess it's more lethal, but I'm not actually 100% sure. So I would either, I mean, you don't need like a mortality kind of thing coming up or anything, but it would just be nice to know when that has happened, or the option to see like that, you know, maybe a little lethality thing.
That would actually be really cool if you had like lethality on the swordsman in Warhammer as well, against other infantry. So anti-infantry or anti-large stuff that would actually do lethality on only that thing. To like make stuff, because like on legendary and stuff like that, you get spearmen, like bleak swords and swordsmen and stuff like that are literally garbage. Like there's no reason to get those. They're supposed to hold the line. Spearmen are the only things that does that, essentially, like in 99% of the cases, unless you're playing like, you know, a melee based faction that it doesn't matter, where you're not really having any backline to defend.
Yeah, I mean, Pharaoh's actually introduced quite a few mechanics that I really like. I think Pharaoh's actually really good.
Pharaoh Dynasties was really good now.
I checked yesterday. Dynasties is like the third most played game, not most played game, still my role. Most played Total War game on Steam. It's Warhammer 3K, and then Dynasties is like right below 3K, which is pretty good to say it launched with like 400 players or something ridiculously low.
No, like credit where credit is due. I was not a fan of Pharaoh when it got released, but they really did a lot of cool stuff with it now. Like a lot of it. Lethality was just amazing game changer for the battles. Like that's the thing I love the absolute most. Like family trees, stuff like that. I don't give a shit, but like the lethality is like so good.
I think the game in general is very good. I did see that Maya, who is she's CA Sophia project manager.
I don't know. She's someone big there at least.
Yeah, but she said, I'm so glad we got to make the game we wanted to make, which says to me that, again, it came down to the reason we got the Pharaoh we got was because of budget. And I think that was such a fucking mistake.
They ruin everything.
I think if Pharaoh Dynasties was the Pharaoh we got, I think people would have been a lot more into it.
Yeah. And then maybe it would have actually been a $50 game, 60 or whatever they sold for.
Releasing it as they did it basically just screwed them over. And I think they need to learn this, is the fact that it may, on a spreadsheet, it may look like it's going to save you money. Probably isn't.
Yeah, I think
profits over everything. It's just the same story, it always is.
I think it was Jimmy Carr that said in some interview about like media that people's attention span for bad content is getting shorter. So TikTok stuff that gets larger for like, you know, bad contents. But for good content, it's getting longer. So people are like, yeah, I can watch like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad, you know, 8 seasons, 1-hour episodes. No problem. I think it's kind of like just the media, like all media is getting so saturated now that you need to actually make these like good things to be able to compete. It's like we're not having any MMO anymore, any new big MMOs anymore, because who the heck is gonna compete with World of Warcraft? That's 25 years of content. It's, you know, you're gonna play through that yourself in a week? Like, no, I don't think so. It's too much stuff already.
Just as an aside, I have been playing World of Warcraft recently, and I will say I used my boost on a character to boost him to max level, and I logged in. It dumped me in the middle of a zone I've never seen before. I was literally a wall of yellow exclamation marks. I got so scared I logged off again. I was like, I can't deal with this. It's too much. I can't. I'm going to start level 1 again. I can't deal with it.
Here's something easier. First time, Path of Exhaust. I'm going to open up the skill tree here.
Let me whip out my graphics calculator.
Gaming is not for me anymore.
There was so many yellow exclamation marks. I was like, I don't know which to do. I'm so scared.
Last 2 times I played World World of Warcraft was like, just when Cataclysm came out, I tried to like jump into it again. It just ends up me standing on a mount, jumping on the auction house, waiting for like looking for a dungeon or like a battleground or anything like that, or arena fights. And then the next time I did it for like the one where you go to the like pirate place or whatever, the ships and Jaina, whatever the hell her name is. Once again, standing on some auction house, some bank on my mount, just jumping, waiting for something. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? I spent like 5 minutes just doing nothing. Like I'm literally wasting my life away. It's like logged off, cancel subscription, 28 days left. It's like, no, I'm not gonna do this. Definitely not.
That's that willpower. That's what you need.
It's just as long as you get enough disappointment in yourself, anything is possible.
So that's a really heartening message, I think.
Real quick before we get into what we've been playing, as that's clearly where it's going.
No. I have one more. I have
one bonus point as well.
Oh, nice.
Right, this is like super simple, and I haven't written notes. Why don't we have stances in Total War? Like shield wall. We have them for Bretonnia, and I know it's because on the tabletop.
Dwarves have them now.
They do?
Yeah, you can research it. It's like the Gromrel wall and stuff like that, and it's like the Ironbreakers can literally like bounce off cannonballs off their shield wall.
I did not know that, but I'd love to see him for more factions.
We also have formations on Cathay. On the like Celestial Guardsmen and stuff like that. Nobody uses it because it doesn't work that well.
I'd just like to see it a bit more. I just think it'd be like, you know, like I swear I like watched someone do a Britannia battle where like their pikemen brought the pikes down and the cavalry run into them and they do that thing where that'd just be so interesting for the halberds and just bring a lot more thought about, oh, well, I'm just going to run my units into their units. Oh, no, I'm going to wait here and I'm going to have them take this specific stance and it'll make them slightly better at these few things.
Bretonnia also have them for the cavalry with the triangle shape.
Yeah, I said that. Don't have to be such a point. Well, actually...
I like these things. Well,
in general,
yeah,
most units don't have them. It'd be nice to see them a bit more widespread.
Maybe more like Three Kingdoms, where you actually have like the testudo formation, and you have shit like that. It's probably good. Yeah, I think everybody wants that. Yeah, add more deaths. But when you were talking about the naval battles, and because they were pretty cinematic, one thing that I started thinking about the other day was that synced animations are like gone this time around. Like in Warhammer 2, a bunch of devs did like on their free time, fixed up like a bunch of synced animations, like, you know, abominations could fight dragons and dragons could fight each other and stuff like that. Yeah, Carnosaurs. And like now, nothing like that. Like literally nothing. Like have the monsters fight each other. Like make just 5 or 6 more animations. There's like, you know, go big, go 10 big animations, because people like the spectacle of the battles. They want cool stuff happening, even if it's just like small things.
Like, they probably got rid of the devs that did that.
Probably.
Yeah.
If you zoom in on like any unit fighting any other, it's always just like, yeah. And then like 2 lords fighting. I can't remember. I think it's like Dark Elton with 2 swords. It might be Loki. He does this like rolling attack that goes like that at the end. And
Malekith and Tyrion also have this stuff.
He just hits nothing if he's fighting against another lord. It's so pointless.
Rolls out the other side of the unit and does it, doesn't he? He's like,
yeah, it's so pointless.
No, that looks so cool as well.
I thought you were talking about Malekith and Tyrion, because they actually have synced animation fights. Malekith has a ton of synced stuff against infantry that is like really cool. He'll like take them on the shield and like chop their head off. But you only have that for like the first 5 turns or something, because then you're on a mount and you do nothing again.
There is a few that have it. It'd just be nice to see a few more. Just little details. It shows you care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cool. All right, so that's it. I just want more synced animation for big stuff, for small stuff, for anything really. Like there's nothing of that right now, and you need that immersion, man. Immersion is something that I've been complaining about. Goddamn Warhammer 1, that you need more immersion to the game. You don't need realism, but you need immersion. That stuff actually happens. It's not just someone that goes, oh, you know. It's weird, especially with such beautiful models. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree.
So clearly Monsters have been playing Warcraft, Fred. What have you been playing?
A lot of blade and sorcery. A lot of it.
Did you just get a quest 2 or 3?
I got quest 3.
A
community bought it for me. Very, very cool. Shout out to Sergeant Pepper for that one. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm an old martial art, like training in a bunch of weapons and kung fu and stuff like that. So it's been pretty fun doing that. I've Messed up both of my hands as well. Thanks to this, I have like a couple of bumps on my hands because I just like did a real punch and I hit the side of my door straight away. So I had like a really big bump on my finger. And I punched my monitors a couple of times as well. So now I have like I just push everything away in another there instead.
Yeah, I've knocked some stuff off those shelves. I've got an Iron Man figure over there that's missing half his hand from me playing. What do you call it? Until You Fall. Yeah, VR is fabulous.
But that's what I've been mainly playing right now, and it's been good, very, very good.
I've been playing Pharaoh, which again is good.
Yeah,
really enjoyed that. I think it's genuinely a really good Total War game, and I'm more just annoyed that it wasn't that good when it released.
Yeah, I tried that a couple of times now, and it's been good, honestly. You could play some Agamemnon, play the Babylonian dude, look at the dude with the shitty bronze, and you're like, got receipts on that, buddy.
I still don't like the fact that you have raiders just spawn out of nowhere. That annoys me.
Yeah, I actually turned that off straight away.
Yeah, it's so bad. And I also really don't like the resources feel very stringent. Like for some reason they do not want to give you any resources, and I don't know why. The resources in Troy felt so much better, and then they kind of like shifted it for Pharaoh, and now it just feels worse, and I don't know. I suspect they were trying to kind of get the Nile, like you have a lot of food in during like the harvest season, and then it's less food, but that doesn't really work when you're not in Egypt. So I know it's Total War Pharaoh, but still, it just feels a lot of the time. It just feels very like I don't have the food to recruit units, which doesn't feel particularly fun to play, but otherwise really good.
Small things like always, but otherwise, man, much better game. Much better game.
I've been playing. I checked out that Marvel Rivals in the beta. Like me and my friends playing it, and like we've never felt so old playing a game. The pace is just so unrelentingly fast. Like we play Overwatch, and it's like it's fast, but this is just like it just doesn't stop. And there's just people just I'm too old to play this, but it's pretty good. I think all the comparisons to Overwatch kind of like a little bit. It's remember when Overwatch was coming out and all the people were like, this is just Team Fortress 2. It just sounds exactly like that. So I think I'm hoping it'll shape out to be good. But as well as that, I played Returnal. Got to credits.
What's that?
It's how was that? Because that got like Game of the Year for something, for like PlayStation game or something.
It looks exceptionally good. The like story and lore is really interesting. The gameplay, everyone says the gameplay is really hard. I don't like hard games. I don't play Souls-likes because I'd get too mad. But this is like, it's not that hard. I finished there's like 2 acts, and I finished the first act on like my first real go, and then had to redo it because my recording software failed, and I wanted to get clips for clout. And so I had to play it all again. It took me like 3 turns, and then I finished that act 2 on my also first run through. So it's really not that hard, but it's a really, really good game. I highly recommend it, and it looks fantastic.
There's also the Steam Tower Defense thing on Steam right now.
There is.
What's that?
Castle of the Alchemist is there as well. Really cool game. I think that's like an underrated one. I talked about that one on the podcast several times as well before. But it's a cool game. It's basically a Doom guy goes around doing castle like tower defense.
You know, I've kind of got I've got balloons, so I don't really need anything else, do I? I love balloons. I've been playing balloons for probably like almost 20 years at this point.
Yeah, balloons is very different style. This is like gritty berserk Doom guy going around with big weapons, getting mutated.
Ooh, sounds pretty legit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Got like 89% on Steam or something. Played that a little bit as well. Played a bunch of stuff.
I also want to see the new Deadpool.
Oh, the new Deadpool's really good.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's at least as good as the other two.
I liked how much shade they threw at Marvel and Fox.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil much. I was one of those people who waited a very long time for Deadpool movie because I read all the comics back in the day, and like really enjoy like different storylines, stuff like that. And it's still like it's basically Ryan Reynolds still that is trying to be Deadpool, because Deadpool in the comics is incredibly more violent and so much more awful. It's like a super awful person, but he's very likable in this one, even though he tries to kill people. He is like, dang, he is just so much more likable in the movie.
Mm-hmm. It felt exactly like I was like a little bit worried that when it joined Marvel, they're trying to like kind of tone it down a little bit, but it was pretty much the exact same as the other two, but like clearly had a bigger budget, and clearly now it's in Marvel. It had. I'm not going to spoil, but it had, you know, it's joining Marvel. So yeah,
it was a good love letter for comic book nerd stuff. It was so funny because me and my wife went and watched that one like 2 days ago, and like MCU movies have always been like our age, so as we've aged as well through these like 15 years that they've been doing the MCU or whatever, like it's always been like our age, and now you can see like the people like exactly our age also go and watch the movie. Same thing, like always that audience. Just I'm just looking around. It's like, dang, I'm getting old.
Yeah,
it's like the MCU is just our generation's what are they called? Terrence and Hill movies. What are they called? Bud Spencer and Terrence and Hill.
You've lost me.
Yeah.
Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill. Yeah. Okay, you guys weren't.
I'm too young for that.
Yeah, you probably are then.
Enough monsters, I have no chance.
I age very gracefully. What can I say?
God, you really do. Look at that hair. Have either of you tried Soval, the turn-based fantasy Warhammer?
Soval.
Oh, the free one.
Yeah,
we talked about that one last stream. We did,
and I really think you guys should try it because it's really good.
Soval Fantasy Warfare.
That's the one. It looks like a Warhammer battle report, and that's why I love it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go off a tangent here as well, because I always talk about like Ubisoft games and how I'm one of the people who actually like the map games. And I was talking about this on my stream the other day, where do like early access to any Ubisoft stuff, you get like the most unhinged comments ever. Like you might think like, oh yeah, Creative Assembly has some hate, you know. That's what it is, but like Ubisoft has the most unhinged haters on the planet. I enjoy like streaming those games just because of the unhinged haters that come in and they're like, look at how wooden that cloak is. Ubisoft should just shut down. You know, that's a real comment that I memorized that I got when I was playing Valhalla. And like the most insane things ever. And you're like, oh, do you like it? It's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it. It's nice so far. Oh, how much did they pay you? You know, as if it wasn't like $1 billion franchise already that people actually bought, you know, for reasons.
And people think we just get paid to play these games.
It's not by those companies, at least.
No, definitely not by those companies.
No. So one of the reviewers that I follow, G-Man Lives, did like a Star Wars Outlaws review video. And he has got, and I was like, went to the comment section. I was like, dang, a Ubisoft game this early. And he thinks it's kind of good. And you can just see like hundreds of comments just calling him like, you know, like, how much did they pay you? And just like, Ubisoft, Ubislop. And just, you know, it's going on like that. And there's like no nuance. There's nothing to comment on. You can't really argue with anyone who just like hates, just pure hates. Right? I just thought that was just funny how it happens to other people as well, I guess.
Yeah, Google's been on the downtrend for years. You're not spouting a hot take by saying, "Oh, Ubisoft just makes the same game over and over."
Like, yeah they do, and it's people enjoy those.
It's like, are you interested in the world? It's like that Avatar game was the most basic shit, but I like Avatar, so I found it fun. I'm probably gonna like the Star Wars game because I'm a massive Star Wars shill. Yeah. I probably like that Marvel's game more because it's Marvel.
I think people get the idea that, oh, because I hate that game, if you like it, therefore you must be in some way bad.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to like tie their entire personality to it.
You can like things that are objectively not good.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I think it's just the polarizing effect of social media, because we've not really, like, as a species, we've not really dealt with that before. Because there's so many people that can like form groups and communities and stuff like that, and it really turns it polarized instead. So it becomes like us versus them thing. So you will not find like bigger haters of Star Wars than Star Wars fans and stuff like that. This goes to show like the Simpsons joke that I really adore, where they said like, not comic book guy, he's the angriest person I know. His favorite franchise is Star Wars, and he hates Star Wars. It's like
so true.
Yeah, it is, and it's just I think it's just one of those things that we'll just have to deal with in the next 50 years as society, basically.
I mean,
People really hate the Acolyte, don't they?
I've been watching like 4 or 5 episodes, and I think it's like okay so far.
That basically is. I went, yeah, it seems like Star Wars. Seems fine. I can watch this.
Yeah.
It's good. It's all right.
And then I watched like some criticism, and I was like, all right, well, this one has happened. Like all of these things have happened in the movies or in the lore before. But I've not finished the show yet, so I don't know. But the only thing that I didn't like was maybe Fire in Space, but that's like first 10 minutes or something.
People take the lore from these franchises and act like it's gospel, whereas in fact what it is a money-making endeavor.
Oh, like
so.
It's hardly even better than Warhammer. Warhammer's like patched together with.
Oh, it's garbage.
It's like once you really dive into it, you're like, oh, so you can change your bloodline for vampires. Like, okay. And like, yeah, greenskins won't work with anyone except for these places.
It's yeah, I've been listening to the Horus Heresy, and so much of that is hot garbage. There's some really good stuff in there, but quite a lot of it is just hot filler garbage, which is fine, because if you like it, that's absolutely fine. But I don't think it's like high literature or anything. Yeah.
It's like the Godric and Felix books, and nobody's gonna try to give them a literary award or something like that, but they're pretty good. I like them.
I badmouthed Abaddon on Twitter.
Was it Abaddon?
And he's the Archaon of 40k, effectively.
But a failure.
Yeah, his only defining personality is he has a top knot and he's angry.
Yeah, I like
a space station into a planet.
Somebody like I've seen discussions on both like fantasy forums and on the 40k forums, like who would win, Archaon or Abaddon? And even on the 40k forums, they're like, yeah, probably Archaon. He's Abaddon doesn't have much going for him, honestly.
No,
like Archaon has managed to do quite a lot of stuff, and it's pretty good.
But anyway, so I was a bit flippant about Abaddon, and someone came back to me and wrote like a 4 tweet post one after the other, basically just like saying how utterly wrong I am and Abaddon's the greatest. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, mate, you just need to calm down. You just need to let that go. I'm not personally attacking you. Right.
No, ask them to forget matching tattoos of Abaddon.
It was the kind of person who definitely would have like a massive like Abaddon back tattoo, like 90% top knot.
Just his face going.
Yes, literally that. I think some people just get way too into the lore of this stuff and just get too intense. And I think you just need to take a step back. It's all bollocks. Okay, it's fine. You don't.
Yeah. Probably. It's like Machiavelli wrote back in the day. There's no quicker way to get people on your side than finding somebody to a common enemy, right? I think that's kind of what is happening all the time. It's like, yeah, that person bad thinks other way than us, than me, and these other people. Therefore, I will hate people who hate on Abaddon, people who like Ubisoft, and things like that.
Yeah, that's literally it, isn't it?
And we shall become stronger for it. Like the most weird Sith in the world.
It's just the worst. People are the worst. People. What a bunch of bastards.
Yeah.
Agreed. Right.
So, I think that kind of concludes this episode with us just condemning humanity and going on rants and going on about rants that we've already heard before. Do you guys want to listen to something special? Do you want somebody that we would interview? Any ideas that you think we should discuss? Want to hear our opinion about something weird? Not super weird though. We already went into like the uniform rats that are too busty.
I don't understand why.
And we don't need.
Rat doesn't have to be that sexy.
We don't need that in our lives. So you know, keep it what you can probably have on YouTube, and we'll consider it at the very least, or at least read it. I won't, but the other ones will relate to me. I refuse YouTube comments. I actually don't. I am drawn to them like a person in a Lovecraftian novel. Anyway, that's it for us. Thank you guys for watching. I have been NerdFed, and with me, my lovely co-hosts, COLONELDAMNEDERS and Monster Bounce. Good day.
Bye.
Bye.